What a night at Rogers. Darnell Nurse.
Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Well, how about that? Your Edmonton Oilers pull out the win in a game that never should have gone to overtime, but that's okay because who else but the iconic, heroic, beloved from all across the National Hockey League, Darnell Nurse, comes in the clutch with his second goal of the game. And the Oilers pull this one out on a night where Connor McDavid will snag all of the headlines as he is officially a 1,000 point player, which is just... That's dumb. That's a dumb stat for a guy who's 27 years old. SG Battle 4, first up in the chat. I think we should pay Nurse some more money. Look, $9.5 million against the cap. His actual cap number, like his actual take-home money, I'm fairly certain is much more than that. We could wander over to Puckpedia and find out exactly what it is, but that'd make for a terrible post-game show. But yes, good for you, Darnell Nurse. Your first two games, your first two goals of the season. We actually are going to take some time to park and talk about Darnell Nurse because, yeah, I know he is and will constantly be the whipping boy. But he really, really, really did have a good game. And he put a couple really good games together over this last little run for the Oilers. Connor McDavid landing goal point number 1,000 and then 1,001. Thank you for also pointing that out in the chat. SGC Battle. This is a nice little run for the Oilers, and hopefully it's only going to get better because, hey, we got the Maple Leafs coming up on Saturday. My name is Graham Mosimann, so very excited to have you here for this little post-game show here on Game Over Edmonton. Now, I want to tell you about some of the other stuff we have all around the Game Over Network, including Hyperdrive Hockey, a show that'll have a new episode coming out tomorrow with Kevin and Daphne and Max, where they get really into the minutia of hockey in a cool, fun, and very, very different way than you may be used to hearing. It's a great show. Go subscribe wherever you grab your podcast, or you can go watch it as well on the Game Over Network national channel. Okay, so now that we have that and set and good to go, I would love to hear from you in the chat. Let me know your thoughts of the game, things you really liked, things you didn't like. If you want to just come gush about Connor McDavid getting with point win number 1,001, hell yeah, that works for me. Let's go. Or if you want to join the Nurse for Norris campaign that we already have growing, also very on board for that as well. The couple big takeaways from this game for me, even when Nashville did have that first goal, I don't think this game ever felt like it was a point where it wasn't where it was getting a little spicy for the Oilers, especially with their history against this particular team. You never come into a game, even being down one, nervous about what Nashville is going to do. I mean, Nashville is also bad. They've had a terrible season, probably in large part because they just made too many changes in the offseason. When you add Jonathan Marchessault and Steven Stamkos and Brady Shea, that should only be able to make your team better, but things got a little wonky there, and it just hasn't come together the way you would like it to. For that team, if you're a fan of the Nashville Predators, I mean, they currently sit last in the Western Conference. They are tied with the Chicago Blackhawks for points. So this was always a game that the Oilers should have won. I am getting so frustrated though. We're going to talk about this in the next period of this show. I'm so tired of the Oilers always having the second best goaltending performance in every single game they go into. I'm so over it. We're going to talk about Scott Wedgwood coming up too here in that, but I kind of want to put the bow on this overtime and the end of the game specifically. The fact that you give up 2 goals to the fourth line is I don't want to say it's unconscionable because this is the National Hockey League. These players are talented. They are good. Obviously, they wouldn't be in the league if they wouldn't be. But when you are giving up goals to the fourth line repeatedly, I think that really shows something that has been a problem for the Oilers many times over the last number of years, in that they do have a habit of playing down to their competition or perceived competition, where when Stamkos is on the ice, dude couldn't find any space to get off that shot. When Marchessault was on the ice, they had people bumping him and making it so he couldn't get settled and use that incredible wrist shot of his. Even Gustav Nyquist, who has one of the most underrated one-timers in the league, very rarely had a chance to get settled because the defense was on him and playing in the way the defense needs to and how it's constructed. And then the fourth line comes on, they're just willing to work a little bit harder than the Oilers are in some cases and pot up those goals. But man, I am truly astonished at how that goal from Calvin Pickard came in. He had some shaky moments this evening, and we'll get to that in period number 2. SG Battle, yeah, Wedgwood did his great impression of Prime Hasek, and it wasn't enough to stop Darnell Nurse. Hey, Darnell Nurse had a really quality game. The second period of the show, we are going to talk about the Oilers' defense and how they need to play like they did tonight in a lot of ways to be successful with how they're currently constructed. But we're just going to wrap up our conversation here on Nashville pretty quickly. SG, I'm loving the mixed signals out of Nashville. One day it's the full rebuild is coming. The next is Sidney Crosby is a fit in Nashville. Yeah, there's such a weird. They're weird. They're weird on that one, man. Like, I Nashville should be a team that's competing for the playoffs, especially with how far they pushed Nashville. How far they pushed Vancouver in the playoffs last year, and they only gained more skilled players after that. But when you're not mixing things properly and you're not working in it, I really think it's probably a coaching issue at this point. And like Andrew Burnett's going to be there for a little bit of work, like just based on his contract. So we'll see. All right, yeah, we'll get into Calvin Pickard in just a quick sec because the shaky but still wins. I don't think is good enough at a certain point. But before we get into our conversation, where we dive into the Oilers' defense and especially one iconic, one incredible Darnell Nurse, I do want to tell you about LaRouche. So Game Over Network, we're an indie company. We don't have the giant media bucks of a massive telecom keeping us going. We're just a bunch of little guys trying to keep this network going and change the conversation around hockey in Canada and improve it in a digital space. So we do have crowdfunding options available if you want to help support a network that's focused on community and inclusion and quality people. So with LaRouche, we do have crowdfunding options available. If you pop down in the description of this episode, you will find a link to our Patreon page, plus LaRouche, which is a crowdfunding platform specifically for companies that do originate in Quebec. With LaRouche, we're trying to get to $15,000, and if we do, we actually open up a whole more options to gain a whole more money and employ more people and put on even bigger and better shows. So if you have any things you'd like to see on our Patreon and LaRouche, please let us know on Twitter, Instagram, or Discord server. I don't know if we've all been on Twitter lately, so wondering how much longer we're going to be on there. I can almost guarantee that we're going to become a lot more active over on Blue Sky coming up in the very near future. We're probably not going to be on Mastodon, though. Can't really see a whole lot of Mastodon times popping off. So in this next segment of the show, I specifically would like to talk about the Oilers defense, because this was something that came up in the last Game Over show that you and I did here together, and the main crux of it was, oh boy, they're bad and not good enough. But when they play in a very specific way, you can really you can squint and get the idea of what a Stanley Cup winning defense could be if everyone has the exact buy-in and if everyone plays in the ways that you really, really, really need. And a huge part of that is turning out to be Brett Kulak. Brett Kulak has steadily over this season seeing his numbers and his time on ice increase, and the amount of responsibility coaches are giving him increase, which is only awesome to see. Brett Kulak's biggest thing, watching him pretty intently for the last couple of games, his skating has always been good. That's never been an issue. His hockey IQ has been a little spacey at times, but he's over his last really stretch where I think he's really starting to cement himself in that kind of 3-4 slot, maybe 4-5 type of area, where he is using his stick and using his body in really smart ways without being super physical. I mean, you saw it a couple times this game where Nashville had what appeared to be very clear paths to the net, and Brett Kulak was able to use his speed, cut someone off, and separate them from a puck without being incredibly violent with his play, which is really what you want to see, because especially with kind of players that aren't huge like he is, you play too violent and your body will just break down by the time you get to the playoffs and even further on in the rounds. So I am becoming more confident. I thought Emerson had a couple really nice moments. Didn't really have a whole lot of notes on him tonight, which is really exactly what I want to see from someone in his shoes tonight. He was always kind of waiting there for those moments when Kulak was going to become the primary defender. He was there waiting to kind of catch whether the puck came loose or if he had to make another hit on the play. Really, really liked seeing how Emerson played that support role really, really well. And the dude's 24, so he's only going to keep, ideally, getting better. Oilers D is good enough to get them to the trade deadline. Yeah, I don't think you're wrong on that one, but it's when they start to chase and they start to play a game that doesn't suit the way they're built, it's when things go really, really bad. And we start to see just a pile of goals going past our goaltenders who are not awesome. I love the trade deadline idea from Sarge Battle. We pick up Connor Murphy because you can never have too many Connors. Yeah, just collect all the Connors. We'll get Connor Murphy. We'll find some way to free Kyle Connor from Winnipeg. Who knows how? Money doesn't matter. Snag a Hellebuck at the same time. Just gather all the Connors you can and make an all Connor team. Because that's the real key to winning the Stanley Cup, is the most Connors possible. Darnell Nurse this evening. I love a game where the Darnell Nurse haters can't really say anything. Because when Darnell is playing his best, he is providing points from the back end, as he clearly did tonight with a couple of goals. He is an offensive threat when he's on the ice. People love to say it's only because of Connor McDavid that he does that. I'll give you a half points for that perspective. But where Darnell really kind of shows his ability is when he's using his skating and his speed and his physicality in the right moments to get himself some space in the offensive zone. And then defensively to just be kind of a wall when you need him to be. A little less chasing people around like he has been wanting to do. A little bit more stable defending and using his massive reach to be a bother. And that's really what he did all game long. It was awesome in a lot of moments against Steven Stamkos because he had the speed to catch up to Steven Stamkos at times and stop him from getting any really good shots off. Same with Nyquist. Same with Ty Evangelista, who's a nice younger player that's been coming up for Nashville. Darnell Nurse had a really, really great game today, and watching him kind of settle in this last little bit has been wonderful. Now, unfortunately, you're never going to be able to separate him from the contract, and it's to the point where I'm always just like, okay, yeah, fine, we get it. The contract sucks. Shut up and move on. Let's find something different to talk about, because the contract's not moving. It's not going to change, and you can't really blame Darnell Nurse for signing that deal when you had you had folks putting up Seth Jones and Zach Werenski. Like, those were the contracts that led to Darnell Nurse making the amount of money he did. If Zach Werenski's not making over 8, no chance Darnell Nurse makes 9.5. And same with Seth Jones. If Seth Jones doesn't sign those deals, we're never seeing the Darnell Nurse deal. So what does Darnell have to do to be successful? Well, to play games like he did tonight. Use his body position, use his skating, use that physicality without chasing people around to get hits, and he can be extremely successful. And I think there's a non-zero chance that you see him on the roster for the Four Nations face-off when that tournament gets going, because Connor's going to want to have, Evan Bouchard should be on that team, absolutely, and could really, really see if Darnell keeps up at the pace that he's playing right now, that he ends up working his way on to that roster. Sergeant Battle, we'll save that question for trading for trading into overtime, but I will get that idea. I think that's an interesting one that we're going to dive into in overtime. In the next segment, though, we need to talk about goaltending, because good gracious gravy. Nah. Before, though, we get to the goaltending conversation, I would like to tell you about Game On Hockey. It is a daily podcast we have on the Game Over Network, hosted by myself, where we just kind of get rapid fire into the big stories of the National Hockey League that particular day. It'll come out in your feeds in the morning, so you can kind of listen to it first thing. If you want to get a kind of cursory glance over the big stories that are existing in hockey on that particular day, so you don't have to listen to hours upon hours of radio and podcasts and out of market stuff and all this jazz to get up to date on the NHL, we give you a super quick, under 10-minute rundown of all the big stories, of course focusing on the Canadian teams, and then we'll get you set for that night's action, wherever it may be, if we have games to cover here on the Game Over Network in whatever market we happen to be in. If you like that show, please let us know. We're always trying to improve it, make it better. If you don't like it, please tell me why. I host that show, and we love constructive criticism. So you can find that show anywhere you download your podcasts, or as well on the Game Over Network's main channel on YouTube. Let's talk about goaltending. We have a tandem that is extremely cheap. Most teams do not have... Most teams will have a goaltender that will roughly cost all of what we have. So if we are going into our total cost, it's $3.6 million. That is extremely, extremely cheap because of some of the bigger deals and because of the amount of dead cap on that we have right now, which currently sits at $3 million between Jack Campbell and James Neal. I think we're getting okay value for $3.6 million. That being said, I am so tired of going into every single game assuming we're going to have the second best goaltender. And I know you can pull up that kind of that Grant Fuhr stat. Well, sure, he lets in a lot of goals, but we still win games. Yeah, but think of the more games you could win if you had something better. And Sergeant Ballard, I thought you had a great point. Our tandem costs less than $3.5 million. I'm not expecting an Olmark Swayman quality. That's so valid, and I don't think we can hope to kind of get something of that quality. I would like to see something a little bit better than what we have. I thought re-signing Calvin Pickard was a interesting decision, even though it's only $1 million. I think you had players out there who had possibilities of really kind of turning things around. Mackenzie Blackwood in San Jose, great example. He looks like someone that could really pull things around and make something out of his career after going from New Jersey to a terrible team in the Sharks and still putting up, kind of okay numbers. I worry if we go into the playoffs again without like a third option somewhere, that if Stu gets wonky and then Calvin Becker gets wonky or lets in goals like they did on that kind of semi-breakaway at the very end, I mean, he didn't get his pads down quick enough. The goal went through him, and that's the last thing you can want. It's the thing you want to avoid the most as a goaltender. Like a clean, crisp, beautiful wrister, those are hard to stop. But one that makes contact with your body and your pads and still gets through is a really big warning sign for me. Now, maybe we can go back and say, look, maybe the Oilers shouldn't spend money on the cap for goaltending. Maybe you have to go out and offer the sun and the moon for that dude from Vancouver or a Mitch Korn or someone to improve the goaltending, because Dustin Schwartz has been the goaltending coach here for so long. And I love to know why, because like Stuart Skinner's been our best goalie that we've had in a while, probably. I mean Mike Smith at his best was probably superior to what we get when Stuart Skinner is at his best. I am selfish. I loved Mike. I loved the chaos gremlin that was Mike Smith. So it's not everyone's cup of tea. That's just my own thing. I think you really want to think about getting something else. And I mean, don't do something crazy like go get Tristan Jarry out of Pittsburgh and hope that, he's coming back to Edmonton, it'll be good. That would be patently insane. Tristan Jarry sucks and is cooked. But I would feel better if you can find something. I mean, even if it's someone like a James Reimer to have, and you can just dump him into your system as your third stringer / AHL platoon guy, I would be okay with. But I'm every game that goes by with a couple of weird goals, I'm feeling less and less confident. Hey, maybe we get playoff Stuart Skinner back at some point, and I look like a big dum-dum. But man, don't. Really, really hope we can see some improvement, or hell, bring some help in on defense, and then improve the goaltending situation that way by making the players in front of them a whole lot better. As we move into the overtime, we dive into the chat. Sergeant Battle, thoughts on a trade idea? Also, Sergeant Battle, thanks for coming to hang out for this whole show. It's always nice to see you pop in. I love it when we get to chat and be silly little guys. Thoughts on a trade idea of Jeff Skinner and our 2025 second rounder for Rickard Rakell. Imagine a third line of Kane, Rico, Rakell come playoff time. Yeah, that would be pretty sick. I've always liked Rickard Rakell. I think he's a hell of a player, and somehow is tied with Sidney Crosby for the number one goal scorers in Pittsburgh. If you want just an idea of how horrific things are going for the Penguins right now. I mean, you pull up his Puckpedia. I mean, he makes too much money. You need to have them retain half at least. So you bring him in, you move out Jeff Skinner. Jeff Skinner's on a 1 year. Here's why I don't think a Rickard Rakell trade works. He's got 3 more years left on his deal. His deal expires in 2028. And even if you can get him at half price at $2.5 million, maybe you can flip it if the fit isn't quite right. I worry a little bit about moving from one guy who's supposed to score 30 goals every year without trying in Jeff Skinner, who hasn't been up to the snuff that we would really like to see so far, for someone who is, I think, older, as Rickard Rakell right now at 31. Jeff Skinner is, I think, 30? Let me take a quick thought. No, Jeff Skinner a year. So you're getting a year younger, but you're also picking up 2 more years of contract with someone. And I mean, I guess you save $500,000 and can use that somewhere else around the roster, I even at the end of that deal, Sergeant Battle popping up in the chat again. Even at the end of that deal, Raquel still lowers our average age. That's a friggin' yikes, my guy. You're not wrong, but woof. I think if you're moving Jeff Skinner, the only place you're going to really move him is to a team that's in a similar situation as the Oilers, in that they also need a little bit more depth scoring, and it hasn't panned out with them yet. But you need to get something else back. I wouldn't really feel awesome about trading Jeff Skinner for like a defenseman unless he became a piece that got you someone really, really quality. But I think Jeff Skinner is going to have to stick on this roster for a little bit. He had a couple really great chances tonight. I mean, I can't believe he didn't put that one goal in the third period. Because you really want to count on him in a game where Victor Arvidsson's out. Unsure when Victor Arvidsson is going to be back, by the way. A quick run on Oilers Twitter, and there's no real anything at the moment, so hopefully he'll only be out for a game or two. I don't know where you're going to trade to really improve. Skinner to Calgary for Rasmus Andersson. I hate Rasmus Andersson in any other jersey unless an Oilers jersey. If you have a way and anyone available to remove Rasmus Andersson from Calgary and somehow put him in an Oilers jersey, I think you have to do it, because he's quite literally everything you need. He is offensive. He is offensive to watch play because he's so dirty, but like that's what you want when the playoffs come hit. Oh man, it would make Conrad's and Peter's heads from Game On Calgary absolutely melt into puddles. But oh boy, if there was a way to get Rasmus Andersson out of Calgary, that's one where I think you're moving everything you absolutely possibly can to make that one work, because oh boy, that would be killer. I'm gonna take one quick look around here. In our Twitter feed, no questions. We're good there. Yeah, dude, a Nurse Anderson pair would be such a dream. Like, I hate how much I like Rasmus Anderson. I lived in Calgary for 6 years. It's actually how I got to know Peter from Game Over Calgary. I worked with his now wife at the same radio station, and then just got to know him over the years. Pete's the best. I love that guy to pieces. But I would also deeply love to watch his head melt if Rasmus Andersson became an Edmonton Oiler, because it would be wonderful. So hey, Sergeant Battle, you and I are on the same page on that one. Checking up, no really big news from the Oilers. Post-game conferences. It was really cool to see Connor McDavid. If you have a chance, go watch his on-ice interview that he did with Chelsea Bird after the game. You could tell he was trying to hold back tears, which is just like, makes me happy. Makes that, it's just good vibes and wonderful feelings. Darnell Nurse, 3-point night, 2 goals. You love to see that. Yeah, good game. It's probably not one we deserve to win in a lot of ways, but I'm glad we did, because things start to get real spicy over the next little bit as we look ahead to Saturday as the Oilers go into Toronto to take on the Maple Leafs. Oh, cool. Sounds good, dude. Love to have you in here. Sergeant Battle, by the way, I'm one of the 8 people who reached out. Not important, but I wanted to come check out a show live. Love the vibes. Thank you. Really appreciate that. Yeah, also, I mean, here, we could also do a group call-up before we kind of wrap the show up here. We're looking to probably add some folks to the roster here of Game On Edmonton. So if you have a thought, if you have some ideas of what you might want to bring to either like doing a host game show like this or hosting a podcast, hell yeah, send us a note. You can message me through Twitter or through our pages. You can also head over to GameOverNetwork.com and send us your stuff there. Got like a quick video telling us a bit about yourself? Please do. We'd love to add some cool folks to the roster here at Game On Edmonton. So that'll wrap up the show for here tonight. Oilers and Maple Leafs on Saturday. Then we go Habs, Senators, and we're back in Edmonton next Thursday with a date against the Wild. But a nice little Eastern Canada run going all the way through until next Tuesday. So that'll wrap up this show here of Game Over Edmonton. I'm Graham Mosimann. Hope you had a wonderful day. Let's go Oilers. Wonderful game. Congrats to Connor McDavid for landing point number 1,000 and 1,001. If you liked this show, please give it a like. If you really liked it, please subscribe. And if you really, really, really liked it, please send it to a friend, because we're a burgeoning, growing little media company, and we'd like to get into front of as many people as we can. So have yourself a wonderful evening. We will talk tomorrow on Game On Hockey, and then Austin, I believe, has your crossover episode with the pals over at Game Over Toronto coming up after that game's done on Saturday. Thanks for hanging out with us in the chat, on Twitter, and we'll see you down the road.